Welcome everybody to the Clear Tai Chi Mastermind meeting for Friday, July 22nd of 2022. With us today is myself, Richard Clear, your resident host, and here in Maryville, Tennessee. And today, Matt Holker is doing it remotely, but he is the original organizer for Maryville, Tennessee, outside of Knoxville. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
And you're sitting Buddha behind you. And Daniel Hill in Phoenix, Arizona.
That's right, teaching Clear Tai Chi through Phoenix Internal Arts in the West Valley.
In the West what Valley?
In the West Valley, yeah.
Cool. Art Don in the Washington, D.C. area.
The one I'm in Greenbelt, Maryland. That is 12 miles east of Washington, D.C.
Welcome. Mark Mashad in the Michigan area.
Hi, yeah, it's the Midwest Michigan area covering Grand Rapids, Tai Chi, and then the area in between.
Welcome. Harry Legg in Verona, New Jersey, outside of New York City.
Yep. Hello there, Sifu. Thank you. The school is New Jersey Tai Chi, and yep, Verona is just about 15 miles from New York. We also have our other instructor, Paul Shansky, who is in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. That'd be about a half hour from Verona. Thank you.
Philip Chan in Columbus, Georgia.
Hello.
Hi, Phil. Sheila Bell in Costa Rica. She's going to tell you what parts.
Hi, everybody. I'm here in tropical paradise, Guanacaste, Costa Rica. I have a school that's about 10 minutes from Lavaria Airport in one direction, and then the other in 20 minutes from the Lavaria Airport towards the beach. We also have a platform up at the farm. Sorry?
No way.
There's a platform for doing Tai Chi up in at our farm, which is about an hour and a half from where I live.
Cool. And today she is the one person being grilled, interviewed. And so you'll get to hear a lot more about all of those cool things. All right, welcome. And Ty Talbert now in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes. How y'all doing? Here in Military City, otherwise known as San Antonio, and I am teaching in Converse.
Welcome. Jared Blake Smith in Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. My school is Emerald Valley Tai Chi. I'm mostly teaching in Lakewood and Berea at the moment, but I cover the Cleveland area.
Welcome. Jim Kelly in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yes, oppressively hot Boca Raton, Florida this time of year. Thank goodness for air conditioning, but you could also catch us on social media at West Boca Tai Chi on Facebook.
Welcome. Okay, so the promotion for today is Clear Tai Chi online, and we have online and DVDs. And if you haven't done level 1 of Clear Tai Chi yet, in order to get your foundation, then I think you should avail yourself of that. You can get that at clearmartialarts.com. Again, we have it in DVDs. We also have it where you can do it online directly, and it will form your foundation for doing more advanced studies. And if there's some part of your Tai Chi that's been missing, I think you'll get the keys you need with that information. So that one, and then the other one is our Clear Tai Chi yearly gathering that happens in June. For that one, you would go to taichigathering.com, and it's a fun time and a lot of learning and a lot of really nice and cool interaction and fun and friends and new friends and old. And we look forward to seeing a bunch of you there. All right, so
Let me
add any of that, Matt.
Yeah, let me just add one thing. I know there are some exceptions on the call, and Sheila is a notable one. But most of the regional organizers that you hear on the podcast got their start in Clear Tai Chi with the level 1, like whether they were doing Tai Chi before or this was their first entry into Tai Chi or whatever the case was, when they really kind of got the power of what Clear Tai Chi is and what got them over those first hurdles and got them ultimately to the skill set they have today was that they started with the level 1 program. And so definitely I would recommend checking that out. Like Sifu said, it's at clearmartialarts.com, and there's a bunch of other stuff there too. If if there's something specific that you're looking for from Tai Chi, you can go ahead and browse the courses there, but definitely check out the Tai Chi level 1 program. It is jam-packed, and it's always at a very deep discount. It is I've figured out the math on it, and is in terms of like video footage per dollar, it is the single biggest bang for your buck course that we offer. So yeah, clearmartialarts.com.
All right. So Sheila, you ready?
Born ready.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend that you leave your mute, so that's off the whole, yeah. All right, and then anybody that's got any questions, feel free to jump in there and ask away. We'll start with what's your name, and it's Sheila Bell.
Yes, that is correct.
And school name and all of that.
So I actually have a really unique middle name, and I'm going to be Sheila D. Bell professionally. So if you're ever looking for me, there's a bunch of Sheila Bells out there in the world, but I am SheilaDBell.com. My middle name is Dorette, just so it's out there. I used to try to hide that when I was a kid. I'm not sure why anymore, because Dora is the root, means a sweet thing. So you guys who know me, I am very sweet. So Dorette is my middle name. My school is Balance Ideal Tai Chi, and I chose that name by looking for cognates, which are words that are the same in Spanish and English, that have the same spelling and the same meaning. So Balance Ideal or Balance Ideal is the same in both languages.
Oh, cool.
Plus, it's ideal balance. What would be better for doing Tai Chi, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. That's great. And you're a Clear Tai Chi member school, and of course, and let's see here. Okay. Tell us your school situation, including satellite classes, city and state locations, and that.
Yeah, so basically, I have a couple of pretty solid locations, but the school is essentially wherever I am, because I am very happy to go and meet people where they're at. The place, which I call Balance Ideal, has a lot of services besides just Tai Chi, and it is in Liberia, which some people know as Liberia, but I think Liberia is in Africa. It's really Liberia. They're spelled the same, but Liberia is the capital of Guanacaste, and there is an international airport very close by. So in that building, we do, basically it's like wellness education. There's currently there's 4 ladies that we all work together that do all different kinds of health modalities. Tai Chi being, of course, it's my building, so that's the headliner. I also give classes currently from my home, because a lot of the gyms where I was working here in Plaza del Coco closed during COVID. And I have a really nice big living room. So, and my husband bought us an air conditioner, since we were talking about being cool enough in a tropical place. So I can fit comfortably about 6 people in there, it's about par for the course for classes these days. COVID definitely affected. I had a group of seniors, 15 people were taking the class once a week, and that entire institution just dissolved completely.
Yeah.
Because it was like literally illegal for seniors to be together in a group at that time. So unfortunately, I am in contact with some of those individuals, and they'll come to outdoor classes. The lucky thing about being in the tropics is you can pretty much any time of the year give an outdoor class, especially if your area has a roof over it. So people here do something called a rancho, which is like an outside, kind of like you would do at home with barbecue pit, as long as there's a roof over it, they call it a rancho. So there's 2 or 3 different ranchos I'll go around and give classes at. And then there's the platform. which is it's up between two volcanoes, about an hour and a half from where I live, and that has a roof on it, but it's a would you call it recycled or upcycled? Somebody was pulling up their deck, and we took that teak wood and put it on an old cage. Somebody had a platform for cage fighting here.
Oh my.
It's a hexagon, right? I wish it was an octagon, but it's a hexagon. And so we put in this teak flooring, took the cage off, obviously, and added a roof. And now that's my platform up in the middle of our chocolate tree farm. And it's got beautiful views, and there's a lot of rainforest that we've left intact. So it's a really cool place to do Tai Chi. I've had a lot of sort of insights by practicing up there. And I love to share it with anybody who's coming through.
Cool.
At this time, I don't have any assistant teachers. I've got a couple people who have expressed some interest. So we're giving them time to see if they develop in that direction.
Okay. And then you've got some other things that you offer there as well, correct? Tai Chi, obviously being a sort of a headliner, and then
yeah,
chocolate being a very close second. Or
yeah. So where I'm sitting right here behind me is the it's like a souvenir shop, you could say, but everything in the souvenir shop is sort of secondary to the chocolate, which is actually produced right here. So the kitchen's in the back, and the seeds are grown on our farm, which, like I said, is about an hour and a half from here. And I have developed a line myself, other than the one that we sell as part of the family business, which is, you know, a very high quality, small batch chocolate, but it tends toward, you know, the popular concept of chocolate as a dessert. The line that I've developed is with superfoods. It's got a minimal amount of sugar and a lot of antioxidants, all kinds of goodies that are healthy. So, I mean, like, what better way to get your healthy supplements than in a chocolate bar? And so, yeah, we've got that chocolate that's here at my building in Laveri that I've mentioned before. And also sometimes at my house, I'll do essential oils works. Like it's not really aromatherapy in the traditional sense of aromatherapy, but it's using the vibrational qualities of the oils. And I incorporate Chinese medicine with the oil. So it's been a really interesting fusion for me, actually, with the Fakong, to see how the qi should be directed, but accessing it through essential oils.
Mhm.
Am I fading out?
You had a little bit of a squelch.
Okay, sorry.
Thingy.
So, sorry.
Oh, no, it's good.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is not always great here. No, what I was mentioning was that it has been a very interesting journey for me with the Fakong to combine that with the essential oils, because when your sensitivity to the energy increases, as it does in our system, you can begin to appreciate things like the gemstones, right? Or, I mean, different modalities besides just Tai Chi, because it's a, you know, there's energy in everything around us, right? So you can start to detect like what are beneficial foods or not beneficial foods. And in this case, I've been using essential oils for many years, but I have a new appreciation for them and their energetic qualities. So I will combine the oils with the Fakong in my treatments. It's
Cool.
nice because then the people can take home an essential oil and continue to use it, even if they don't really understand how to generate the qi for themselves.
Yep. Yeah, I just read one last night, I think, about some ingredient or chemical that is part of green tea that it was taught, and it was talking about that if you had that one and were breathing like had it where you could smell it, that it's got all these health benefits, including this calming and relaxing and these other things. And it was green, like a green tea one, and it said it had other stuff that it said that it does. And this was a medical doctor saying this. So yeah, Western medical doctor. Anyways, okay, and then in addition to the Tai Chi, you also offer some other things there.
Right. So
Mostly
like
essential oil treatments and the fog.
Right.
And,
in my case, I give lifestyle support. Like if people are interested in transforming their life, and maybe that, let's say if they have pre-diabetes and they have a plan from their nutritionist, but they're having difficulty incorporating that into their life, then they can come and we'll sit down and talk about, how can you make this plan work for you with your preferences and your lifestyle, and the fact that you're working so much and this and that. And so then it's like lifestyle consultation. And I often do incorporate Tai Chi into that because of the stress relief aspect. And then the essential oils and the chocolate. But then the other ladies at the same location are doing massage and Reiki and belly dance and yoga and all kinds of it's a whole one-stop shopping for wellness.
and book club meetings and workshops.
We do have there's a self-development book club, right? And then workshops on basically anything that any of our members or even people outside of our membership come and say, I need a space to do a workshop. If it fits into our concept of wellness, then we allow them to come into that space and do a workshop.
Sure. Now, you said that your platform is between two volcanoes, like,
yes.
So like you can see the smoke coming out on both sides.
So yeah, that's not like the typical YouTube video from Hawaii or these active volcanoes where a bunch of lava is gushing out. It's not like that. They are classified as active, but they're not like they're exploding all the time. It's just there's boiling mud pits, right? One of those volcanoes has a geothermal electric generation plant, right? So they're harnessing the steam coming up there and the temperature difference to generate electricity. And there's a lot of tourism. There's a waterfall, which I'm sure you'll enjoy seeing, which is called Rio Celeste, because the color celeste is like sky blue or turquoise blue. And that waterfall is that color because of the volcanic activity, right? Because it's a copper oxide coloration, right? The copper oxide, like the Statue of Liberty color.
Yeah.
So the water is that color, right? So yeah, the volcanoes definitely influence, and that's why our cacao is so delicious, because you know how volcanic soils are the best for agriculture, right? And we're right in the middle of what's called the energy corridor. People who are familiar with Costa Rica may have heard that I think it's like 95% of the electricity here is generated through renewable resources. So from where our farm's at, you can get to the geothermal, you can get to hydroelectric, and you can also look at the what are the windmill ones called? Helioelectric. So there's all kinds of things happening up there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you're out there doing Tai Chi and you get and you go, wow, my Tai Chi is really powerful today, or are there earthquakes? There's really
yeah. So there's over 500 earthquakes per year here.
Ooh.
But if you feel one or two, that's about average. Like any particular place you may be at, you're not likely to feel them. They're pretty small. But yeah, I mean, I think Costa Rica is right at the junction of 4 or 5 different tectonic plates. So there's a lot of activity. We're right on the subduction zone. We're part of the Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
If you've seen Nemo, you know what I'm talking about.
They had something about the Ring of Fire in Nemo? Finding Nemo? Okay. Anybody, anything you wanted to ask about that? Any of that? Nope.
I did actually have a question having to do with being by the volcano. Is that like a higher elevation than your normal training?
Oh yeah. So where I live, I'm like pretty much right on the beach. So when I go up to the farm, it is a higher elevation. It's not super high. I can't tell you the elevation off the top of my head, but it's not high enough for coffee anyway. It's good for the cacao trees because what you really want for cacao is high humidity. You don't really need elevation. That's, for coffee. So, but yes, it's a different elevation. And I've really enjoyed on that platform, particularly the to and from the mountain, because I can do that, like not just only in front of me, but behind me and to the side. And all of them are volcanoes. So it gives a little bit of a different sensation.
Well, I was going to ask you that too, if you get a different sense of things working up there than down lower.
Definitely. It's like if you are always giving your classes in one direction and then one day you decide, hey, I'm going to do this in a different direction, and you feel completely different, right? It's like that, but multiplied by 10 at least.
Really?
To go to a different place and do your Tai Chi. I highly recommend doing that. If you have the habit of only doing your Tai Chi in the same place all the time, you're really selling yourself short. You should go out and try in different places. And my particular preference is any place that has trees. It can be under a tree or around, any kind of natural thing. But with the mountains or the waterfalls or any of these kinds of features that you find in nature, it really changes a lot.
Yeah. Yep. I found that when I was in China studying and I come home, there were things that I tried to do that I literally had to go to my notes and or my memory and write down like a process to take it from nothing step by step by step by step, because although I had got to where I could do it there fine, I couldn't do it here. And it was weird. I was like, it's like it feels really strange. And I had to like redo it, like I was relearning it, even though I was the one doing it because I had known how to do it, and go through a process in order to be able to do it again. And it was strange, weird. That would be the keep it weird. Oh, anyways, what I've been telling Carly lately, she says, Dad's weird. And I'm like, aren't all
Yeah, it
dads
is weird.
And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, do you want me to really like be like the standard old dad that just doesn't do anything? No, okay, then keep it weird. Anyway, so all right.
Yeah, and I noticed some of those things too. When I first moved here, we're only 10 degrees above the equator, right? We're 10 degrees north of the equator. And things just felt different. I was like, what is that? Is it the barometric pressure? Is it, the temperature or whatever? But I think it has to do with, well, the heat's definitely a factor, but there's places you can go here where that's not as much of a factor. It's more of an, by altitude, you go up, it'll cool off significantly. But I think there's definitely some effects depending on where you're at in the electromagnetic field of the earth, and related to gravity. Like the earth kind of bulges in the middle. So depending where you are geographically. Also, if you're in China, I mean, just jet lag is going to make you feel different for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, just it was a very different feel getting there on the ground and back in America on the ground. I could feel a real difference.
Yeah.
Did you say that there was an electrical charge that's higher at the center around towards the equator than there is like further north or south?
I don't know about that. What I said was that the gravity is a little bit stronger because the earth bulges around the middle. So it's like there's more mass between you and the center.
So the further out you go, the stronger that gravity is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's being squashed out, would it not be the gravity pulling it in more at the top and the bottom than it would be at the sides? Or
I think it's just because there's more mass under your feet between you and the center of the planet.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to make it feel different than somewhere that's not as like that. Yep. Yes. So, okay. How many years have you been studying Tai Chi?
So I started Tai Chi because my husband was looking for a way to reduce his stress load. And he started going to an acupuncturist who's doing the Tui Na massage. But he recommended that my husband do Qigong. And so my husband got one of his friends to go with him, but they had to drive over to Liberia. I don't know if it was once a week. I think it was just once a week, but they got kind of tired of having to do that. So they asked the teacher, could he come to them instead? And he said, well, if you get a group of 8 to 12 people, then I would be willing to do that. So my husband wanted to fill up the group, and he got me and both our kids into the group so he could reach the quota of people, right? Yep. And so then the teacher started coming to my house where we have a half basketball court. And so we were all learning Qigong out there in the backyard. We were learning the Shibashi 18, and it was really interesting. And I liked it a lot. That was over 20 years ago. That was my initial, and I've always been kind of glad that I did Qigong first. And then the Chuan I learned later. So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
how my journey started. And being an acupuncturist as opposed to a Tai Chi teacher, he was simply trying to get us to learn, moves that would help us to promote health. And if he did a treatment on us, that we would understand kind of where the movement of Qi was going and how to sort of prolong the benefits.
Be able to feel it and duplicate it. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But so he currently now, if he gets people coming to him and asking for Tai Chi classes, he refers them to me.
And then so you started with him. That was over 20 years ago, and then the first Tai Chi form you did was the 24.
The Yang 24. That's correct.
And how long ago? About what year do you think?
That's maybe 10 years.
Okay.
About 10 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, with the same teacher. And it was about 2015 when he told me that I should take on some students because that would help me to develop better.
Yep.
You know, when you become a teacher, you have mirrors all the time. Yep. Staring back at you, and you may pick up things in them that you wouldn't even see in yourself, but they actually learned from you, right? So he said you should have a few students, and I said, well, okay, I hadn't really considered that because I got into Tai Chi. I have a very long history of health issues. Since the time I was about 14, I noticed some pretty severe changes that made me change my activities, made me change my diet, made me change all kinds of things. And it wasn't until I was about 35 I was diagnosed with some autoimmune diseases, and I by that time had already learned kind of how to handle my symptoms, even though I didn't know what the problem was. Mm-hmm. And Tai Chi was a huge part of that for me, to help with the inflammation of my joints and the level of pain, sleeping, energy levels, everything. It's like a whole overall good effect. So I had always kind of considered I'm doing this activity for my own benefit. But as soon as he said you should teach, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Wouldn't it be great to share these things, with other people who are looking for solutions? But I didn't really feel prepared to be a teacher. And that's when I started kind of hunting around, and I found a bunch of your stuff on YouTube. And I was like, okay, something about this guy, it was just the attitude in general was a lot more authentic and helpful. A lot of the guys out there are kind of got bigger egos, or they're hyped, they're really hyped, or there's a lot of, I don't know. I felt a lot of affinity for the way you were teaching. And I think the first thing I took from you was the essential keys.
Internal power, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the first. That was back then. It was like an email. It would come to you in modules through the email, like once a week or something. Yeah. And then after that, I started taking the level 1. So at some point during level 1, I found out there was a Fakong workshop. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting to me. I had taken, probably about the same time I started the Tai Chi, I was taking a pranic healing class. And I was practicing pranic healing, and I think I was doing a good job. People would, when I definitely was being able to diagnose people through energy diagnosis and to help them. But it was having some negative repercussions on myself, which I would chalk, excuse me just a sec. I would chalk that up to not having a good practice where I knew how to manage, dealing with other people's energy and that kind of thing. But the Fakong was very attractive to me because of that history with the pranic healing.
Yeah, a lot of times there's, with things like chronic healing, there are specific methods for not taking on that other person's energy, and or people, even if they learned it, they kind of like almost skimmed it, and so they forget it, and then they do the practices, and next thing you know, they start getting all the problems and things and picking up bad energy from people, and that kind of, that stays with them. and that kind of stuff. And so we get them. And then the Fogong, it's from the beginning all the way through how to not do that so that you're not picking up other people's energy and keeping it, and how to, it's basically how to get it off you if you did get it, and then how to not have it come onto you like that while still, getting a high quality treatment session. So yeah, I've noticed that that's one of the things that people really like about the system that way.
It's a huge thing about the system. It was greatly helpful, and I was super, super grateful because it allowed me to get back into helping other people.
Cool. Yeah. So you said you started teaching in about 2015. Yep. And I think
Yes. I was teaching the Shibashi and the Yang 24 for a bit there, until so I took your Fakong, I think it was 2017, and I was blown away. I mean, it was amazing, right? Like what people always talk about, trying to take a sip from a fire hose. And it was just like, oh wow, I should have brought a bigger basket for all these pearls. And I had already been studying level 1, but I was taking it pretty easy. I was enjoying it. At that time, I think the next workshop that I came to was push hands, actually. And when you certify the push hands, you get an instructor certificate, right? And
level 1 Tai Chi is that once you complete that, it's an instructor certificate for that material. Yeah.
Right. And since I had been studying level 1 on my own on the online course, I stayed late. I stayed after that workshop and went ahead and did the level 1 test. And I got all those certifications. So then I started switching over and teaching your sets.
Okay. Cool.
Because they're awesome.
Thank you. Anybody, any other questions on any of that? Or anything to add? Harry? Oh, no. All right. For martial arts studied, other arts, martial arts, go ahead.
No, I haven't had any other martial arts.
Okay.
I've looked at your Bagua. There's a lot of things in Bagua that I really like, but I haven't dedicated myself to it necessarily. But there's a couple of exercises, like teacups in particular, that I incorporate into the Tai Chi. But I have had extensive experience in all kinds of different kinetic activities. My folks started me in classic ballet when I was 4. So obviously that's not the same as Tai Chi at all, but I've been familiar with my body, I guess, and the movement for my whole life. I played soccer for 12 years. I was on the swim team. I started with synchronized swimming, which is kind of like ballet in the water, if you're not familiar with it. And then competitive swimming later on. And in the meantime, I was playing basketball and softball and all these other things that we like to do in the United States. I grew up in Texas, so there's lots of sports activities. It's a nice long summer. I would say with the dance, there were some times, looking back, now that I'm familiar with the way Tai Chi feels, and when you've got your Chi going, and how the way introspection can influence your movement, perhaps. Mm-hmm. that dance has some similar attributes. And I was taking, besides the ballet, I ended up taking jazz and tap and modern dance in particular. Like if you're doing swimming dragon, it really reminds me of the modern dance days. Yeah. Back in the probably in the 80s, in the early 80s, I was doing modern dance. So no, I have not studied other martial arts, but I am very familiar with movement as a science. Yes.
Cool. Let's see here. What other credentials do you have? So you've got your level 1 push hands, you've got your level 1 through 4 on the Fogong, actually your level 1 through 5 on the Fogong. And then your level 1 Tai Chi, clear Tai Chi, then your level 1 push hands. What else?
I also have the Parkinson's certification for teaching Parkinson's, Tai Chi for Parkinson's disease.
Hmm.
And I am very interested in the pathway of the advanced Fakong training. So I've taken some of those modules.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what level that calculates out to, but I'm on that path for sure.
One that I taught before was up through 9, but I'm working on a revision of the material, and the revision is still the same material. It's just it needs to be organized. From teaching it, what I found is that there was a couple of places in there that need to be organized better. And so it's a process, and one that I'll be getting to once I get done with our book on Tai Chi. So
yeah, I found that.
Sorry, if I'm not mistaken, there is also additional material that was not covered in that first.
Oh, there's
session.
more.
I know there's, yeah.
There's always more.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about it. So I would say other things about, my history that sort of influence my my role as a Tai Chi instructor. I was in the classroom for 15 years. I actually have a degree in marine biology. So I taught science for 15 years at a high school level. So there's a whole lot of training that comes in when you're a teacher. Everything from first aid, through different methods for teaching, how to switch it up. I have no fear of public speaking. After all that time in front of 7th and 8th graders, you can imagine, they'll put you through the ringer. So I'm good to get up and talk to anybody about whatever they want to talk about. It's not a problem. Which it can be a big block for a lot of people,
Sure.
Then I also am certified for the state of Texas to be an online teacher for public schools.
Okay.
So that course really prepared me a lot for the environment of, like this podcast and doing Zoom calls and having materials available online and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have just a ton of certificates and all kinds of things that I'm just a very curious and lifelong learner. So, like the face yoga and the essential oils and all kinds of good stuff.
Cool.
Sheila, I love that you have, some real scientific credentials, yet at the same time, you are down with energetic healing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what all the conflict is, honestly. I think that they definitely support each other. And if you study science and physics all the way up to the quantum level, you can figure out where all that ancient knowledge really was tied into. Yeah.
Nice.
I have a sister also who's an emergency surgeon and also an acupuncturist. So I guess there's a certain amount of open-mindedness, right? But I think when you're looking at the heart of things, you'll definitely find there's common threads.
And fortunately, it does seem to be becoming a little bit more mainstream. I have a friend who's a registered nurse. They gave him some energy healing training. Now, it wasn't as substantial as what we've gotten, but the fact that they're taking nurses in a mainstream course in taking them through that. And I just had Rutgers Medical Hospital for students in Newark, New Jersey. Is having a workshop, and they have brought in people such as myself to show these up and coming doctors what to expect in something of this nature, which is really cool that it is going in that direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
so
fantastic.
Harry, so that's not quite as new as you may think. I had a 2-year appointment at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences in Bethesda, which is the medical school for the military. and I gave some lectures, and I also taught a level 1 Reiki class. And this
Wow.
was back, oh, I'm just trying to think. It was when I was in South Carolina. I guess it was in the early 90s. So
Wow.
stuff like that happened on a small scale. But anyway, so
That's great to know. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my newer students is a retired nurse. And he is really doing very well with all material. Of course, he'd studied martial arts for decades before he came to me, but it was one of those cases where he got to a certain level and his teacher said, now you need to learn Tai Chi.
Uh-huh.
By happy coincidence, he ended up coming to Costa Rica for a year. And but I think it's his training as a nurse that has really opened him to these kinds of energy sensitivities, for sure.
So one of the issues, I guess, is people of my age are very familiar with Newtonian physics. And so the question is, how open are people to quantum physics, which has sort of different principles?
Well, I think
so-
that in the same way as a soccer player doesn't really need to understand, the 3 laws of Newton to play soccer well, you also don't have to understand quantum physics to be able to work with your own chi and affect other people at a long distance and all this sort of thing. You train to it, you observe it, you test the efficiency of it, etc., and you come to understand it. But you don't necessarily have to be able to explain it on a quantum physics level. But the interesting thing is that there is now scientific evidence that shows why these things are working or how.
And so my point is just to be open to the concepts of quantum physics and what they do. You don't have to understand them, but you have to be open to them. And if you're only open to Newtonian physics, then that limits you.
That is correct. Yes.
Matt, Ty, you're on mute.
Sheila, something I think you'd appreciate being from Texas is that being in the Bible Belt, I was kind of hesitant to say anything about Fagang. And yet I've come across 2 people that do energetic healing here. And one, he's kind of is my physical therapist, and he seems to be self-taught. And another one who's also in the physical therapy field, no, he's a chiropractor, and he's gotten it from a Christian point of view and reaching out to a higher power as a Christian. And I'm like, oh, so it's not going to be a problem. Recently, I went to a location that teaches judo to see about co-locating there to teach Tai Chi. And one of the little boys got hurt, and I hadn't spoken to anyone about why I was there. And he hurt his elbow, and I took the pain out of his elbow, and the woman looked at me and said, you need to teach here. Talk to the instructor about me teaching there. I'm like, I don't know judo.
I love it. I love it.
Cool.
But people are open to it from the scientific and a religious point of view now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I sort of dealt with that. When I was teaching Reiki in Germany, it was no problem. It was kind of like meditation. When I got to South Carolina in the early 90s, it was a totally different thing, which is one part of the Bible Belt. When I got to Columbus, Georgia in the mid 90s, still in the Bible Belt, it wasn't nearly as conservative as South Carolina. So it's interesting. The Bible Belt is not a uniform phenomenon. There are lots of different gradations in the Bible Belt, and things are also changing. But so I don't know what it's like in South Carolina now. It was very, very conservative, where it was just a very crazy place. And Columbus, Georgia was much more accepting, even though they're both in the Bible Belt. So So that's an interesting phenomenon you have, Todd.
I guess I'll chime in and add that as a very scientifically minded person who is also interested in, you know, phenomena of all sorts, I find that clear Tai Chi is a really, really, like, it really extra appeals to me for that reason, because it gives me a vehicle to test everything, and to, you know, experiment and to play with internal variables and really prove out theories about stuff, and experience it firsthand. And that, to me, as a kind of a scientifically oriented person, is just extraordinarily valuable. Like, it makes it so much fun. It is one of the most fascinating pursuits that like I've ever engaged in my life. And, you know, as people have pointed out already, it keeps going. There's, you know, there's like always more. And so you know, for me, that's never been a contradiction. Like, that's always been a big part of the appeal to it, is that this Tai Chi method, unlike so many others that I've been exposed to, really has proof and testing methods built into the system, like, well, like really, really well. And so I don't know, Sheila, if you have anything more to say, or add on, you know, on that note. Maybe it's been covered, but I wanted to share that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree 100%. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why it appealed to me more than other options that were out there.
Cool. The other question I had here is, what other careers do you have, or do you do Tai Chi full time? And you probably answered that at least some. But...
Yeah, I think I talked about that quite a bit. I recently got an associate's degree in business administration.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hand in hand with the development of my Tai Chi school, which I do hope to expand and would ideally be doing full time, the personal development that goes hand in hand with being an entrepreneur, to me, just, I mean, I had no concept of that being part of it, you know?
Oh,
but
yeah.
When you are developing like what you want to stand for, and your name is what you're doing, it's going to go hand in hand. And so as my business develops, it gives me occasion to reflect, like, what am I trying to do? What's my purpose? What's my mission? You know, all these kinds of things. And, you know, having studied science, I came from a household. My father was an engineer. My mother was a med tech. My sister's a doctor. My other sister studied architecture and then strangely changed to political science. But we don't hold it against her. But, you know, she has gone a route where she's doing entrepreneurial things herself, right? And so I've kind of slowly followed into that. And my husband also has been an enormous influence on my life. We've been married for 30 years, and he was always entrepreneurial. He started selling oranges on the bus when he was like 8, you know, and he had a little snow cone cart when he was a teenager. And so he's also a lawyer, right? He studied law and he practices law. But of course, this store and several other endeavors that we've been through together have shown me how being your own boss and developing a business is also a route for self-development. Just as Tai Chi also, as you're practicing Tai Chi, it gives you ample time to reflect on yourself, right? And so I feel like I've gone through several transformations in my life. I actually was invited to lecture at a college class. A friend of mine was giving a course in, I think it was entrepreneurial spirit. And she invited me as a guest lecturer because she said, Sheila, I love the way you've transformed your life like 4 times. I want you to come in and talk to the kids about, you know, that kind of journey, right? So I do consider everything I do to represent myself. but I'm certainly not an island, and I do everything thinking about the people that I serve. And it's really a great place to be. And I do hope that the Tai Chi can take off to a point where it's full time. But it's been a whole journey and I'm loving it. And I expect to continue for quite some time.
So the next set of questions have to do with notable teaching achievements. And so the first one is, who have you taught?
So in the area where I live, we have a phenomena which is called snowbirds that most people are probably familiar with. It's a tropical, beautiful destination. And so a lot of people like to get out of their cold
Winter.
home, their home. Yeah, they're home when it's in winter. They'll come down and spend 3 or 4 months. So a lot of the people that I teach are here looking for a chance to improve their health. They're probably retired and they're probably here for a short period of time. So I've developed some classes where it sort of caters to that. This is a course as opposed to sign up for a year because they're not going to be here. And then I hope senior citizens, like I said, I had a group of 15 and it was so much fun. They were so grateful. They had a great time. I think they were getting a lot of benefit. With COVID, things have changed, but so that's another type of group. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, I'm used to working with young people. So it's funny because a lot of them now are adults, right? So sometimes I have my ex-students come to me, sometimes they're parents, because you know, when you're a teacher, you end up knowing a lot of people in the community.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I've got that population as well. And then just the kind of interest that I have. The reason I have that ladies group, right, is because I have met other people that are similar to myself that are doing wellness type activities, right? And so I also have that whole community. And the great thing is that we've been able to develop a culture where we're not trying to compete, but we're collaborating, right? So recently I was called by a friend of mine who has a separate, you know, institution, but she's a yoga teacher. And she said, I would like to serve here they call them the golden age, the people of the golden age. Because they don't always want to get down on the floor and do yoga. And there is some yoga that you can do from a chair, but she thought they might enjoy Tai Chi as an alternative to what she normally gives, right? And so it's great to be in that community where we support each other, yeah. Right? And so that's been a really neat phenomena. And so I should mention too that I'm bilingual. I teach in Spanish as well as English. And a lot of the people that are here are bilingual. So some of them were born into a Spanish speaking home and learned English. Other people, when they decided they wanted to come retire Latin America, so they're learning Spanish. So it works out really nicely to mix it up a little bit with the languages, and people appreciate, they say, hey, I'm learning so much with the Tai Chi and I really appreciate that I get to practice my Spanish, yeah, or vice versa. When I am teaching in Liberia, the classes are almost exclusively Spanish, but when I'm here in Playa del Coco, they are mixed. And then the farm is more like when there's a retreat or a special event or things like that. And so then in that case, I just, you know, play it by ear and do whatever's appropriate in the situation.
Yeah. Cool.
I haven't had any kids classes yet. I don't want it to turn out to be like I'm babysitting, you know, but if there were kids that were interested, I would definitely be open to that. I am a trusted professional with that age group. So I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I know all their tricks, but if they really like something, you know, and they get into it, then that's fascinating to me. It's one of my favorite things about teaching is when people are like, oh, wow, okay, you know, I get it, right? That's the moment that we as teachers enjoy seeing, that that something has really been, internalized by the student.
With children, if the class is geared and the material is taught in a way so that it's very conducive to where they're at, then that's good. If you're going to teach it a little closer to traditional, or not traditional, but the way that Tai Chi is typically taught, then you're better off with that to say, hey, I will teach your child, but the parent has to be in the class with the child. Of course, I'm not going to be disciplining anybody. I'm not going to be making them do it. That's your job. My job is to teach Tai Chi and like that. And so you could go either route with that or a mixture of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I'm open to the idea. So far, the kids that have been presented as possible students, it's because their parents wanted them to have an activity. And so I've been like, well, let me talk to your child and find out, and that was not the case. So
Yep.
I'm waiting for those students to knock on my door eventually.